Hi everybody, welcome to Fast Homebrew. Today I'm supposed to be riding my bike, but it's raining cats and dogs. So instead, I'm going to drink some of the experimental beers that I made and go into a bit more depth on them instead of putting myself through 200 kilometers of misery in the wet. So my first experiment was the home brand experiment, and I did that almost 6 months ago now, and actually it has improved a little over time. Initially it tasted terrible, but if you remember, I picked up a generic brand beer kit from the supermarket. I brewed it up, split the batch into half, and to one half I added some hops and some grains to see if it could be improved at all. So there's two main observations that I found. First of all, the recipe said that you should use sugar, but I said, well, I know better than that. I'll use light dry malt instead of raw sugar. In the end, though, I don't think it actually helped, and I think it might have been better with sugar. Perhaps in this case it wasn't just bad advice or appealing to cheap, budgety people. As I said in my last video, the kit was probably actually designed for use with sugar, and so that's probably how it should have been made. The other thing was that my additions made things worse. So knowing nothing about the kit, I put in some crystal malt and some Amarillo because that'll improve it, right? But it's added some sweetness and some fruitiness to a kit that it didn't really suit at all. In fact, initially it was worse than the control batch. Now that they're both only bad instead of terrible, they're just different kinds of bad. But as I said before, it was a bad beer plus a bunch of random nonsense made it worse. So what I've got is two pretty bad beers here that were actually initially both completely disgusting beers. So I guess I've got a bit better idea of what I would do with this if I did it again, but I'm not repeating this experiment, so there you go. Now, if you'll just excuse me for 1 minute, I have to sweep the stuff away from the drain so that my backyard doesn't flood. There we go, it takes care of that. Alright, so my next experiment was the megaswill beer, and the point of this one was to make something that kind of is close to what a commercial brewery makes and markets to us, tells us all that it's the greatest beer in the world. So, two main things about this one. I used cheap cane sugar in place of expensive malt to replace part of the malt, and I also used the dry enzyme, which breaks down the sugars even further and boosts the alcohol without having to put extra ingredients in. There are a couple of problems with it. Firstly, I thought that it tasted actually a little bit sweet, and that could have been due to the hop concentration in the small boil that I did. So I got all inspired and made a video on that, which you might have seen. Also, it had that cidery homebrew taste to it, for want of a better term, which would have come almost certainly from the sugar. So despite that though, it definitely had the dry taste from the enzyme, and it had a very low finishing gravity, and it just tasted like anonymous beer. So I think that if I went back and I fixed the sweetness and the cideriness problems, then it wouldn't be out of place in a pub on tap next to some of the other commercial beers. And if you marketed it properly, then you might even get some of the punters to buy some of it and go, oh, I don't drink that, I drink this. But not me, though. I'd much rather buy the stuff masquerading as craft beer, which is brewed by the same mega commercial breweries under license. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. I'm pretty sure I've covered everything I wanted to say about those two now, and the good part is that now it's all over, no one ever has to make any of those beers again, so we can go back to making the good stuff. Yay!